All right, so my name is Annunziello with eXp Realty and the Local Experts Group. I'm here with Damir. He's a mortgage broker, and we decided to make this video to educate buyers in the home buying process. And today we're going to be laying out the full home buying process, all the steps that go along with buying a home. And Damir, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what we're going to be doing today?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Look, thanks for the intro. My name is Damir. As mentioned, I'm with Bespoke Lending Solutions. I'm a mortgage broker. So today, our objective really is to go over some of the important steps in the home buying process. The home buying process is actually very exciting. It's going to be a little bit stressful, right? Our job is to make sure we can mitigate all the risks, or as many of the risks as possible. We prepare you, we help you navigate through this process. It will be emotional regardless, but our job is to make sure that there's going to be more positive emotions, as many as possible. So when you look back at buying your first place, when you recall this process, you're going to have good memories, you're going to have things that you want to share with your friends and tell you how exciting this was and how many places you've seen and how the process went. So our job is to make sure that you have not only secured a right property, that you're protected, that you bought the place that you really have good understanding, that you've secured financing, all the technical important things without which the home buying process wouldn't happen. But it's also to make sure that we leave you with good memories of the process. So that's part of our job as well. So the goal is to educate you guys and help you understand the process, feel more comfortable about it, and know what are the important milestones, just so that you can prepare better. And I think it would probably make sense for me to maybe start with the first part, right, Luke? Because surprisingly to many people, the first step in a home buying process, in many cases, is actually talking to a mortgage broker. You also obviously want to talk to a realtor, especially if you know someone, he can refer you to a great mortgage broker. But the first step, the first conversation really in many cases is a conversation with a mortgage broker. Why? Because the mortgage broker will help you understand what's your maximum purchase price. So when you reach out to the mortgage broker, you're going to have a conversation about your employment history, your down payment, your credit score. The mortgage broker is going to look at your credit report and is going to make an assessment of what is your buying capability. So the application for the mortgage is not just your salary. It's not just about how much you make. There's a lot of different factors that come into play. So when we secure pre-approval, we most of the times are able to lock in a fixed rate for you for 120 days. There's no downside to this, because if the rates actually drop by the time you find the property and do the transaction, you will be given a lower rate. But in the increasing rate environment, pre-approval is a great tool to make sure that you're securing a lower mortgage rate for yourself. So once the pre-approval is done, you know your maximum purchase price, then we can hand it over to the realtor. And this is where Luke is going to tell us a little bit more about the next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's so important to do that step first, because I've dealt with a lot of people who like to jump the gun and they go, well, I know how much I can afford. And then they start looking at houses or homes that are, $600,000, $700,000, let's say. And then, we tour them, we spend time talking about what they want. And then next thing you know, they get pre-approved and they can only afford $500,000. So that's why the pre-approval step first is so important. And then once that's set up, then you talk to me and we can set up a search criteria for you, narrow down kind of really what your needs and wants are. For instance, like if you have pets, you want to make sure that you're only looking at buildings that have pets in them. And we have tools that can help really narrow down your criteria and make sure that we can send you the listings that only fit inside your criteria. So then you can start visiting the open homes and setting up appointments to see places, checking them out, asking the proper questions, so on and so forth. And then making an offer is definitely something that I think we need to talk about. And so I'll let Damir take the first point on here.
Sure. Yeah. So actually, right when you guys find the property that you're really interested in, and you've checks all the check boxes essentially, and you want to put an offer on this property, right before you write an offer, for example, when the realtor and the mortgage broker work together, the realtor will send the property to the mortgage broker so that the mortgage broker can double check the numbers and make sure it fits in all the criteria. because when we do the mortgage pre-approval, when we do the calculations, we also have to factor in property taxes, the annual taxes that you'll pay, your strata fee, and also the approximate heating bill. So these things actually come into play. But what we can do is we can call a mortgage insurance company, mortgage default insurance company, CMHC, and we can ask them if they are aware of any issues with the building. So CMHC is the largest mortgage insurance company, and they have data collected for probably 80%, 70, 80% of the buildings in BC. So that will allow us to right away know if there are any issues from the mortgage default insurance company, because if your mortgage is going to be insured, and we're going to cover this in the next video, but the difference is, then in that case, if the mortgage default insurance doesn't insure properties in this building for whatever reason, then in that case, it might be problematic for us and doesn't necessarily make sense to write an offer. It doesn't happen too often, so don't get stressed about it.
And the other thing that you would probably do at this point is you'd be looking through the strata documents or the building strata documents. So every condo has a strata corporation that collects all the data of financials, any issues that are happening in the building. Usually they have meetings once a month or maybe even once a year, and all that stuff will be collected, and you can ask the listing realtor for that, and it'll likely come in a package that tells you a lot of information about the building that you're potentially going to be buying into. And so you definitely want to have a look at that before you make an offer to see if there's any special levies coming up, so on and so forth. The other important thing to do in this step is have your realtor talk with the other realtor, and also when you're visiting the home, gauge the interest on how many people were there, how many offers are they expecting, so on and so forth. And that way you can really leverage your position in terms of what kind of offer you want to make. Can we put tons of conditions in there, or do we have to go condition free, right? A lot of these things you'll know beforehand, and talking with the other realtor to leverage your position is very important in this step. Step number 5 is doing your due diligence and having the deposit being due at the end of that. So once your offer is accepted, let's say you go through the negotiation process, Damir and I work our magic, and we've got an accepted offer, and now we're going to have a period of due diligence or of subject removal period time. Now, this is typically a week to 2 weeks. It really depends on what's happening in the market, or if you've gone condition free, then you don't have a due diligence period really.
The lenders will need to do an appraisal. So the appraisal is where you will be required to hire an independent appraiser, the appraiser that is on the list of trusted appraisers by the lender that we're applying for the mortgage with. And the appraiser is going to do an appraisal of the property to confirm that the market value of the property is equal or greater than a purchase price that what you're paying for the property. If for whatever reason the appraised value is lower than the purchase price, it means that the lender will only lend on the appraised value. So you will need a higher down payment to cover the difference, right? So that's important to understand and remember. What's the difference between the appraisal and the inspection? Luke, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the inspection is something you do when you're doing your due diligence, when you're in that period of a week or 2 weeks, and you hire an inspector to come take a look at your home that you're considering purchasing to see if there's any deficiencies. So an inspector's job is to point out any deficiencies that are in your potential home that you're purchasing. And with that report, then you can have a better understanding of, what works, what doesn't work. If there's some serious issues like mold that's happening, usually behind showers or something like that. I test out all the appliances, so on and so forth. So sometimes you can uncover major issues. And if you've written your subjects properly, like I would, then you have the opportunity to back out of the deal and, keep looking for another house. So that's why an inspection is so important. And the other thing that you can do with the inspection report is you can negotiate again. So say you come up with some issues and you go, hey, we didn't know about this before we made our offer. And so we want, $10,000 to cover the cost of buying a new stove because this one's broken.
So the inspection essentially protects the home buyer, right? So the person who's buying the property. The appraisal protects the lender. So that's the main difference. Inspection is voluntary, but I think that for the vast majority of first-time home buyers, it's almost a necessity. And while this whole process is going, the mortgage broker is already working on securing the approval. So the difference between the pre-approval and the approval is that now with the approval application, we have the property, because the lender doesn't just evaluate you as the borrower. Now the lender evaluates the property as the collateral, because that's where the mortgage is going to be registered. So what happens essentially is that while you guys are going through the inspection, while we request the appraiser to come in to provide the appraisal on the property, as a mortgage broker, we're already working on all of the documents, submitting it to the lender. And our goal and the main objective from our side at this point is to make sure that we can secure the financing, we can secure the mortgage approval prior to the subject removal date, so that the inspection is done, you guys are happy with the property that you've selected, and you are secured, you have secured the financing for the property, so you can comfortably remove subjects. We're working a lot in the background while this deal is kind of rolling through, and then that gets us to the mortgage approval and the subject removal. When you sign the documents, and tell us a little bit more about how the subject removal works.
Yeah, so once you're satisfied with everything and you've got your inspection, you got your appraisal, everything is good, Damir has told you, hey, yeah, you're all good to go. There's a form that we sign that basically removes the subjects from the CPS, which is the contract of purchase and sale. And then you usually have within 24 hours to give me the deposit, which then goes into our trust account.
So now we're in the position where you have the contract, it's all done, and you're paying a deposit. And in many cases, what I noticed is that people have, or sometimes confuse, the difference between the deposit and the down payment. So a deposit is something that is served as I can use the word, I guess, collateral, right? So this is your guarantee that you will fulfill the contract if you remove subject. But that goes into the trust account of the realty. So it sits there and it serves as a guarantee you're going to fulfill the contract once the subjects are removed, right? But the deposit is usually, and for the 99% of the purchases, is smaller than the down payment. So deposit forms part of your down payment. So let's say your down payment is 10% and your deposit is, 5%, hypothetically, right? So deposit is going to be forming a part of your down payment. And when you're going to be closing on the property, that's down the line, the notary or the lawyer are going to do all the accounting and the math, and they will credit you the amount that you've paid to the realty as the deposit.
So the deposit is just held in good faith once you've removed subjects normally, and that stays in the trust account of the realtor until the process of the sale goes through. And it's very important that you have your money set ready, basically, to submit your deposit once the subjects are removed.
That's it. Now it serves as a collateral to make sure that you're going to complete on your purchase. And that collateral is for the benefit of the seller.
And at that point, like Damir said, the sale becomes firm and binding, and we let the notary and lawyers do their thing.
Sometimes there's little hiccups, so we're here to monitor and make sure that everything is moving through, that when we're approaching the completion date, everything is lined up. The lawyer or the notary will communicate with you in advance and provide you with a summary. It's called the buyer's statement of adjustments. So remember when we talked about the deposit and some of the additional, costs and so on. So that is all going to be reflected in your buyer's statement of adjustment, and it's going to tabulate and tell you how, the check that you need to bring. So how much money extra you need to bring to complete on this purchase, and it's going to, the lawyer or the notary in this case, they will be in charge of removing the charge from the existing property. They do a lot of this kind of legal stuff that kind of happens in the background. And a good lawyer and notary, they will double check all the legal paperwork to make sure that everything is aligned. So again, it's the offer accepted, subject removal, then we have completion, and then we have possession. Possession is where you get the keys, right? That's the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, basically you have completion day, and then the possession day is the next day usually, just to give a little bit of buffer in case anything needs to be pushed over the finish line in that last 24 hours. And then the possession day is the day that everyone loves, of course, the day you get to move into your new home. We'll do a little walkthrough, make sure that the home looks like it did when we checked it out. Usually in the contract, I've written some things like, oh, here's a couple of things that we wanted included, or some things that we definitely wanted to make sure that they got rid of. You want it professionally cleaned. That's always written in the contract as well. And so, if anything is out of sorts, then that's when we tackle that. But 99% of the time, if you're working with another good realtor, everything goes smoothly. That's pretty much the home buying process, very simply put. It's much more complicated than that when you're in it. There's a lot more moving parts, but we really just wanted to give everyone a very quick run through of kind of what it looked like, steps 1 to 10. And I hope this helps. Of course, if you have questions about anything specifically in here, Damir or myself, we're happy to answer any of those questions.
So if you got to move out of your rental place, thinking about buying a property, talk to us early. This, I can't stress this enough, how many times this has saved people from a lot of stress and a lot of issues down the road. Sometimes it's a conversation we have 6 months out, sometimes it's a conversation we have a year out, and sometimes it's just a month, or it really depends on the situation. The sooner we get to assess it, the better it is.
Like, there's so many things that you can set up years in advance even to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best position possible, to be able to purchase the home that you want.
I think that's it. If you're watching this part of the webinar, we're super thankful because you watched the whole thing. That's amazing. You've educated yourself. If you have questions, and you should have questions, feel free to reach out to us, even if it's just one simple thing. Hey guys, tell me how this works, right? Even if you're not necessarily looking to buy right now. Again, completely fine. Talk to us. Have this conversation early. Questions are great. We love questions. They're always helpful.
Yeah, and Damir and I also have a home buying process little booklet. I believe you have one as well. And so if you don't want to go back and watch the video and you want a little booklet of kind of a run through of what we all talked about, then we're happy to send that your way as well. In fact, maybe we'll link both of ours on the bottom or something like that. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and hope you gain some knowledge out of this. And again, feel free to reach out to either one of us with any questions.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate the time.